Hi there, you're not my favorite YouTuber here and welcome to my first Overwatch video. Competitive Season 2 started last weekend and I noticed that even though most people now thankfully recognize that one support per team isn't enough, only very few people actually were willing to play support, and most of the time they weren't really that good at it, to be honest. Now I usually play support myself, so I thought I'd share a few tips on how to use the kit better. The focus on this video is on Lucio, since he's still the strongest support in my opinion, but some things can be applied to other supports too. Now to some of you these tips might seem absolutely mundane, but I've seen so many mediocre Lucios that I believe that a video like this can help quite a few people actually. Enough talking, let's get into the actual video topic. My first tip is about Lucio's amp it up ability. Generally, it's fine to use it as an additional speed boost when exiting spawn at the start of the round, but especially on payload maps I'd advise you not to do so, since the ability has a 12-second cooldown, which can be quite a lot if the first fight's already happened right outside your spawn. In these cases you'd be better off using it a couple seconds later to heal your team faster to make the most out of those early encounters. My next tip is about your weapon. It's there, so please use it. You won't make a ton of damage, but spamming your weapon can be quite useful. For example, burning down a Reinhardt shield might not give you extra ult charge, but it weakens the enemy, can delay a push and gives your DPS mates an advantage when dealing with the enemy. Other than that, just hitting enemies for a bit still gives you additional ult charge, which is especially important for supports. Speaking about Lucio's weapon, his secondary fire is obviously a great way to push people off the map, but it's also quite useful to booby charging Reinhardt from his path, get people off the payload and generally interrupt pushing enemies, even if only for a short period of time. But please don't get too confident and overextend, you only have 200 health and are quite easy to kill when you're alone. Which brings me to my next point. Don't fucking die. Sounds simple, right? Well, it might be, but you still gotta keep in mind that you only have 200 health and you can't win most 1v1s since you will be outdamaged by almost anyone. Yes, healing your teammates, staying on the objective and denying it to enemies is important, but you have to know when to retreat. There's no use in you dying alone on the objective, you're far more useful if you fall back and wait for your team. Going together with this, stay mobile all the time. Standing still makes you a way easier target, which is something you really don't want to be. Also, don't forget your wall ride. I know it's not useful in all situations, but you can use it to make yourself harder to hit or to make moves your enemies didn't expect of you. It's a very useful tool that many people don't care about enough, including me. Something I also notice rather frequently are Lucios that apparently don't know when to switch between healing and speed boost. Sure, your main priority is keeping your team alive, but sometimes speed boosting your team to allow for a quick retreat is more helpful than postponing their death by half a second. Obviously, this also works for pushes, but in that case, I see it being applied more often. In general, this requires more teamwork and coordination, which I can understand is hard to do with how often people don't communicate in Overwatch, but initiating moves and counting on your team to follow you works out surprisingly well, even if you're not in voice chat. Now for my last tip, I want to talk about Lucio's ultimate, Sound Barrier. It's a great counter against burst damage ult like Junkrat's Riptire, but it's also really useful in pushes as it tanks your team up for a short time. Me personally, I like to use my ult mainly for pushes as most other ults can be countered in other ways. Junkrat's Tire for example is rather easy to shoot down and Zenyatta's ult is way more effective against an ulting Pharah than a Sound Barrier. Of course, if multiple enemies stack their ults, using a Sound Barrier isn't a bad idea as it might allow you to counter multiple ults with a single one. So yeah, those are a few tips for Lucio. Please tell me if you found this video useful or if I only talked shit. Also leave any other feedback you might have for me in the comments as it greatly helps me to improve my content. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video and consider subscribing if you want to see more of my content. Until next time, bye.